This is iRacing.
You could use the phrase Imola is a walk in the park, but it would be quite misleading. This picturesque circuit hides great challenges as well as tragedies. But today, we'll see if some of our drivers can overcome as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, as you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Alex Goldschmidt. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Imola's tricky nature is sure to catch a few out today, so let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, but most race fans know this place as simply Imola. This circuit in the northern part of Italy has seen some of the highest highs and lowest lows in motorsports history. The various tragedies that have marred the track left no choice but to alter it in the name of safety. While it originally featured mostly fast, sweeping corners, its modern 3-mile or 5-kilometer version is punctuated by tricky chicanes and incredibly technical turns. iRacing includes the Grand Prix layout and a moto version, which adds one more chicane to the front stretch. Tamburello is perhaps the most notorious of the corners for claiming the life of multi-time world champion Ayrton Senna when it was still a single breathtaking turn. Now the Triple Apexer not only offers potential passing opportunities, but catches out drivers quite frequently. While heavy braking zones are everywhere, because few places allow the cars to get up to speed, overtaking is generally seen as an exercise in frustration. As if to almost counteract this quality, the track itself is situated in a gorgeous public park and sends the drivers through the beautifully calming Italian countryside. It also includes a fair bit of elevation change, in which the track is split between the higher up back half and the lower first portion. It's no wonder that this place still proves popular with drivers and fans in spite of its difficulties in history. The Tifosi keep returning each and every time the sound of engines roar among the trees, and who can blame them? This place is highly technical, so I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a rough one for a few drivers today here, Alex.
Yes, completely agree, Joe. I mean, you've got significant elevation changes, you've got multiple chicanes, you've also got the sausage curbs that the drivers are going to really have to watch out for. I mean, especially going through Acqua Minerale, Variante Alta. You then got, obviously, the downhill descent from turn 13 into the double right at 14 and 15 at Rivazza, where we might see some drivers maybe chancing the opportunity of a dive bomb. But, you know, there's a lot of technicality, but it's also going to be camber changes, elevation changes that are really going to put their driving skills to the test.
No doubt, and those driving skills will, of course, be in our sponsor, Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And, of course, can't mention our sponsors without bringing up Top Gun MG. They're helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That is TopGunMG.com. As for the championship situation, Blake Sams was not around last time out, so he has dropped down a second behind BJ Fulton, who has been on the podium in every race, but never on the top step so far this season. Michael Bolton back there in third, also running a pretty good, consistent season so far. Jad Duncan finally got his first podium last time out, so his has been a little bit all over the place, but obviously he's looking to try and get back on the horse here. From there, you see DJ Alessandrini, who kind of stopped in for a one-off hit, bumps him up into 7th. in the points, but we're not sure if we'll be seeing him again. Otherwise, you've got Tony Morales and Marciniak rounding out our top 10. Real quick, in case we have viewers who haven't tuned in before, Alex is going to give us a little bit of a refresher on the race details.
Yes, this is round 4 out of 13. It's going to be a 40-minute race. We'll be using the new generation Porsche 911 Cup car, so the GT3 moniker has been discontinued, not to confuse it with the sports car variant that runs in multiple GT3 championships across the world. A rolling start and 2 spare cars, but also the drivers will have to make a pit stop during the race.
Not enough fuel in the cars to make it to the end of those 40 minutes. So they will indeed have to stop in, as this is a bit of a unique pit lane, since it's quite long before you are allowed to take off the pit limiter. And that should make it an extra detriment to have to come into the pits. You do not want to have an extra visit in there during the course of the race. But we're not at the race yet. We're during qualifying, and BJ Fulton is our fastest qualifier right now, but it looks like in recent times, since I last looked, Dylan Scott has jumped Blake Sams for that P2 spot, and it's within 6/10 of a second, 600ths of a second, but he's not going to be able to beat him, because I just saw that Dylan Scott spun off the circuit. Fulton is in pit lane, so he's unable to do another lap. However, Blake Sams nearly needs to make up 2/10 to snatch that pole away, and I believe he's on a flyer.
Yeah, he's really going to have to motor on and get pedaling to really push the number 2 car as he's heading up the hill from what would be Tosa into Piratella, and then it's going to be down the hill into the complex here at Aqua Minerale, and you're going to be sort of really having to watch your braking point. And there you can see stamps on the anchors. He just touches the gravel, and Blake Sams is going to abort that lap. He carried a bit too much speed there, Joe.
It's a bit of a shame we won't be able to see whether or not he could have challenged, and I don't think there's anybody else out on track, so nobody able to really change the pecking order here at the end of qualifying. Of our 15 drivers out there that looking like they're going to take part in the race, only Adam Abrams you see at the bottom of the tower failing to set a time during this qualifying session. This is a tricky one with those chicanes, and with it being a modern Grand Prix course, there's a lot of paved runoff. So I'm not too surprised that we had a number of drivers that struggled a little bit to get a clean one in.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest bone of contention will be Variante Alta, which is after Aqua Minerale, because you've got that descent down from Piratella, and as we saw with Blake Sams, just carrying way too much speed. You've got to be very, very measured on the braking. But then your exit's got to be crucial for Variante Alta, but that's the tightest chicane on the circuit. So you've got to avoid those sausage curves, because if someone does hit them, we're going to see 2 wheels in the air on one side of the car, and you can't. The barriers are actually quite close on the outside of the exit of the chicane. So that's a possibility where we might see that if a driver goes for risk rather than reward and ends up in the barriers, well, that's one of the 2 spare cars gone by the wayside.
Yeah, and I'm sure at least 1 or 2 drivers are going to be taking a spare car before this one is said and done. This place is known for being rather punishing, even with all the safety innovations that have been brought to this circuit. So I guess with the qualifying now hitting 0, it's time to go through our starting order, with BJ Fulton managing to put it on pole. Can he finally convert that to a win? Dylan Scott will try to stop him. He is very close, within 1/10 of a second on his time, but starts on the outside of that front row. Blake Sams, who won the first 2 races, is back. He's going to try and deny BJ that win, with Michael Bolton starting from 4th. Robert Leclerc, great qualifying for him there in P5. Dustin Heindel, P6 for him. Alan Watts will be 7th, and Mark Rondeau starts from 8th. Yoshiki Tani will be in P9, and Christopher Marciniak starts in 10th. I'll just round these out as Mark Morales is 11th, John Momar is 12th, and Jim Garamani 13th. Then it's Larry Haas, last one to set a time, P14, and Adam Abrams there on 15th and last on the field to start this race. Kind of curious how important this qualifying will wind up being, because in most cars I've seen race here, Alex, it is tough to pass.
One of the things that we've got to kind of remember from Spa-Francorchamps when round one got underway a few weeks back was the way that Blake Sams got a brilliant launch off the rolling start, and he could capitalize going into Tamburello, as it is it's sort of like it's not a straightaway. You know, the front stretch is not a straightaway by any stretch of the imagination. There's multiple like kinks from right to left, so we will have to watch out for Blake, because he'll be right behind BJ going into the start phase, and we're actually going to be starting the rolling lap from coming down into the double right-hander here. Well, we're actually going through Acqua Minerale, so I'm going to be interested to see what Blake does in terms of his start, because the one he did at Spa was absolutely mighty, and he managed to jump everybody and then pulled away, and then went and did the double at Interlagos just 2 weeks later.
Exactly. So, yeah, it seems to be a strength of his. Can he use that to his advantage here, especially when everybody is close together? And after they start to spread out, it's going to be a lot harder to pass. The pit stops might play a factor in that, as drivers could use some creativity. We'll see whether or not anybody goes for an earlier stop to try and leapfrog their rivals, but that is a ways away. Before that, we got to get this thing started. And this is coming down into the braking to Ravazza that you heard Alex mention before. Could be a place to try and pass, but it's a question mark of, do you want to attempt it there and make yourself vulnerable, where maybe it'll be just slightly easier here down the main straight? You could get a nice toe and attack into Tamburello. Only drivers can answer that one. Right now, they need to answer the green flag, because the pace car is in and Fulton has control of the field as he waits patiently. It is a long ways before they get to the starting line here, so they usually have to go a bit before they get the call from the stand by Barney. And should be any moment now as they round that final little kink. And there it is. Green flag is indeed out. And we head down towards the chicane at Tamburello, which is a scene of many incidents over the years on the first lap. Will they be able to get through there clean? Down into the corner, Dylan Scott almost able to go around the outside. In fact, he does. He takes the lead away. And it was not Sams he needed to worry about. It was Dylan Scott.
Sams, as we now head into Villeneuve, and then it's the short shoot up to the left-hand hairpins, then goes uphill towards Pinatella through Tosa, and we're seeing some really good battles. Good start by Yoshiyuki Tani. He's up to 8th position already. He's got through on Marc Rondeau, but all bit of a tank slapper, and bang, straight into the wall goes Marc Morales.
Unfortunate. So that's our first victim of the track, and I think he did have to take a toe. Must have been too hard of a hit and was unable to drive it back. We come back here to a battle a little bit farther down. I think this is Marc Rondeau being chased by Tani and Marciniak up the hill towards the Alta chicane, but nobody near enough to one another at this stage to try and pass into this tight right-left. Looking back at BJ Fulton, he's lost the lead. Dylan Scott now has command up at the front. What does he do with it?
That's going to be the big question here, Joe. And if he can start building a bit of a differential, bit of a delta between himself and BJ, that could be the opportunity he needs to run away with this. So, but even after the opening lap, that gap is now 0.7 of a second. So Dylan is starting to stretch, but VJ is still going to get a little bit of a slipstream assist on this one. So it could be the case that, you know, we're going to have a real strategy call kind of race, because if they're line astern and they don't put their blackjack cards on the table, it's going to be difficult to anticipate who's going to pit when and where.
Yeah, if you stay consistent, if you don't make mistakes, those behind you will have a rough time. Well, there's some of them right there, as some drivers kicking up a little bit of dirt on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane, going just a tiny bit wide. I think we have had a problem with Alan Watts, because you can see him dropping down the tower now. And so another driver maybe just finding it a bit difficult in the early stages of this race, while Bolton seems strong, and Piratella, look how close he is to the two.
Yeah, we've seen some great recovery guys back from Michael, but we know that he can be side of the vessel at the sharp end of the field. So this could be his opportunity to prove a point.
Exactly. And once again, Bolton is continuing to just hover on that rear bumper of Sam's, but can't seem to do anything with it at this stage. So he'll wait for those openings, and I'm sure that Rexy-inspired car is going to pounce when he sees a chance. But until then, just has to sit tight. This is back onto the main straight once again to complete lap 2. Scott doing an excellent job up there. He's nearly got a second over BJ Fulton.
Yeah, and he's really, he was a tenth and a half quicker in the opening sector. So that's where Dylan seems to have got this car really, really hooked up. But Blake Sams punches in the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 43.241. Meantime, Larry Haas closing in on well, it's a real close battle. Adam Abrams and Larry Haas battling away for P11. Now someone's just on the left-hand side of the circuit there, going through into Tamburello. Not too sure who that was. Oh, that's Mark Morales letting everybody go. I think he's just exited out of pit lane and decided, well, you know what? I've caused myself a little bit of a drama. It's on my head, that one is.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to interrupt anybody's race at this point. Just try to get some laps in, get some experience. But yeah, Abrams there under attack from Larry Haas. That area, I think he may have gotten by him recently. And now they've approached 2 other cars that were battling in front of him. Momeyer ahead of Garamani. So this is now a 4-car fight for 9th position. And Abrams, despite being unable to get a clean lap in qualifying, he's done a good job in the race. He's up 4 since the beginning.
Yeah, we've got a replay, and there's a bit of a sideways moment, and that is not going to be very nice there for Alan Watts. Oh, that was very, very close. Mark Rondeau just threading the eye of the needle to get through on the left-hand side, as we see the number 6 of John Momeyer getting 2 wheels up into the air like a set at Variante Alta, going through the first part of the chicane. Someone has got a bit of front damage on the hood and the bumper, I've just noticed. I couldn't quite catch who that was. I'm wondering whether that was Jim Garamani. No, it's not. And here's one for Mark Rondeau. So look, that's how... that was millimetres away from contact. And then all of a sudden, goes straight into Yoshiki Tani. And Mark Rondeau's car has been very much rearranged on the front end.
Well, it's not letting it slow him down because he's already gotten by Larry Haas. Abrams was attempting to try and pass Garamani up into the chicane. Couldn't quite get that one done. And Momeyer scooted away from all of them with him being so distracted. So Garamani will hold the spot for now. Rondeau able to hold back Haas as they go through the Tamburello chicane. But certainly it is full of spice here at the back of the field in the early stages.
Yeah, I mean, Imola does have a way of really throwing a curveball to drivers, as we now see Adam Abrams there still running in P11. Mark Rondeau, well, that is the car. I thought that might have been him. I thought it was Jim Garamani, who's still solidly running in 10th position, as they will now head down through Piratella and into Acqua Minerale. So more to the point, I think it's just Mark Rondeau cheekily stuck his nose up the inside of Adam Abrams going into Acqua Minerale. So very, very close between the pair. But still, look at this. Abrams just going on the ultra defensive into Variante Alta. And this is allowing Larry Haas to close on in the number 15.
Rondeau has got a fire lit under him pretty much every single corner, attempting to try and find a way by. Backs down a little bit on the way into Ravazza, switches to the inside, but he's got to watch out because, like you said, Larry Haas is right there, just about took the apex away in the first part of Ravazza, but that may have compromised him a little bit, and this is where he needs it, Alex. He needs that straightaway speed.
Yeah, great onboard camera from right underneath the centre twin pipe exhaust from these 4-litre flat 6 boxer engines producing 512 brake horsepower. And of course the biggest difference is the fact of ABS and traction control. Here goes Rondeau to the inside at Tamburello, and that was clean.
Great stuff. So back to 11th. He's still a few down from where he started this race, but the way he's running, I get the feeling that he's going to be back to that starting grid position in a hurry. In the meantime, Abrams, who looked like he was on the attack, now finds himself passed by Rondeau, lost touch with Garamani, and is back battling with Larry Haas once again. We're going to check in with Blake Sams in the meantime. He is with BJ Fulton, and that 1 second that Dylan Scott pulled away earlier is not really extended all that much.
No, I think when you consider it, they're all running at a very, very consistent pace. I mean, Dylan Scott is the quickest out of the trio. His last lap was a 42.67, 42.8 for both BJ and for Blake. So they're running within a tenth and a half of each other. So that is good, consistent pace, but they've got to keep that up. Oh, bit of a waggle coming out of the second part of Rivazza by Blake Sams, but he managed to keep it pointing in the right direction. That was a big, big save for the number 2 in third place.
You can't afford to throw it away, especially with such a good start to the season. They do have a couple drop weeks that they can fall back on, so his missed race hopefully shouldn't hurt him too much. In the meantime, he did set the fastest lap of the race. Dustin Heindel pitting in. I feel like this is a bit too early. I'm not sure that you could make it from here, but maybe this isn't too thirsty of a track since it does have so many slower technical corners.
But then you have to look at the other side of the coin, Joe. You know, with a lot of heavy braking zones, there's going to be a lot of acceleration points on the circuit. So, say, for example, coming out of Acqua Minerale. Moment there for the number 13, Adam Abrams, getting it all wrong. And here comes Mr. Watts closing in on Larry Haas as they're going to go through into Villeneuve now. This is, again, just slight mistakes. Too much of the sausage curbs. I do like Alan Watts has decided to pull a Lando on us here this week.
That is I didn't realize, that is a very, Lando looking livery, but it's going to get scratched up as he gets shoved out of the way slightly by Adam Abrams. But I think Abrams had his own, Larry Haas, rather, I think, that made the contact there as we saw his damage coming up the hill. Abrams also got a little contact into Tamburello. I think that's what sent him off in the process. Now things have suddenly got quite messy in the midst of the field, of the back of the pack here. John Momeyer, though, has caught up to Marciniak. This is for P7 right now. I thought maybe he had something for him, but seems to have had a poor run coming through Alta.
Yeah, Marciniak just did a 45.6. Looking at the sector times, well, he's lost over 5.5 tenths of a second to John Momeyer as Dylan Scott puts in the new fastest lap of the race, 1:42.535. And he's extended the gap between him and BJ Fulton. That is nearly nigh on 2 seconds, and it's expanding all the while. So Dylan seems to have found some pace, but also keeping your laps clean here at Imola is another big thing, whereby you make a misstep over a sausage curb or miss your braking point or your exit point coming out of the corner or even missing the apex, you're going to lose a little bit of time, whether it's half a tenth or 2 tenths. And that's where we're finding it, because Dylan's in clear air and he's pulling away, he's finding perches where others are seeming to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, that half-second difference from last lap made a huge chunk alone on that one, after it seemed like he was maybe making more tiny inroads for a long time. And this is helping him relieve some of that pressure behind them. Interestingly, the second, third, and fourth place battle is still relatively close, although it's now about 1.3 between Fulton and Sams. But look at Sams and Bolton. Bolton's still doing what he was doing earlier on and keeping him in check. Remember how close he was in the first couple laps, and he once again is very strong mid-corner. Could he have a chance here?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Blake Sams has now got to anticipate Michael Bolton to the outside. This is, if he gets the run on him, it's going to be a tall order, but he slots back in behind the number 2 as they head through into Tamburello. Bolton's got a window of opportunity here. To the inside he dives through at the first part of Tamburello. Bit of contact between the pair. Bolton still completes the move. They do say that rubbing's racing, and that was a very clear example of it, but still, nevertheless, Michael Bolton had enough momentum to carry the 127 through on the number 2 for third place. Well,
Sam's not quite looking like what we saw in the first 2 rounds. Also, it appears that John Momeyer has come into pit lane, so another early taker for a pit stop. Maybe just not liking being in the thick of the action out there. Would rather try and focus on his own laps, as Adam Abrams has certainly not had that his way. He's still fighting with Larry Haas, who's now snuck by him.
Yeah, and that's, as I said, Joe, it's just about those unforced errors. And this is, as I said, it's with this the elevation changes. You're uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill, multiple times here at Imola. So you've really got to get that sort of gauge on it. We're going to check out a replay now. And this is going to be John Momeyer. Oh, Aqua Minerale. And onto the AstroTurf. Oh dear, this is going to be a hard hit.
That is why he pitted in. Car just nosed into the wall. Didn't like the damage and how it was feeling, probably. And pitted, returned to the track. He is now back out as we come back to Abrams and Haas once again to try and crack inside of the top 10. But both still owe us a pit stop. And it has been a messy fight between the pair of them thus far. They got to watch out. Sometimes it's better to maybe run your own race rather than try to run somebody else's. Do we have more problems for Alan Watts? It's another issue at Aqua Minerale.
Yeah, but at least without... Oh dear. Again, someone having to use their cat-like reflexes to get out of dodge very, very quickly. But yeah, it's exactly what we saw with John Momeyer, only Alan was able to keep the car on the runoff area and hold the brakes, decided to move forward, and then all of a sudden, faster oncoming traffic. As here we see Dustin Heindel, the Cookie Monster, is back with the livery that we really, really enjoyed last time out when that made its appearance last week at last time out a fortnight ago at Road Atlanta for round 3, and now here he goes. Heindel up the inside, through for P10. The Cookie Monster on the move.
This is important for Heindel. He has made his stop. So these drivers are not really racing him for position in the end, even though they are directly right now. He cannot waste time, especially considering his last lap of 43.7 should place him somewhere around 3rd, 4th, or 5th, I believe. So he's definitely got pace. He cannot get himself tangled up in these two fighting.
No, he needs to clear Adam Abrams very, very quickly indeed. Through into Aqua Minerale, hard on the brakes. And, well, Abrams has got a little bit of damage to the back end of the number 13. I think Dustin Heindel is just waiting for the prime opportunity. If you can't go through at the first part of Rivazza, as they go through Variante Alta, both taking a big wallop of curb. And look, there's the run. Heindel to the inside through at this part of the circuit, which will put him on the inside line for the first part of Rivazza. Abrams, I don't think, will fight this. No, he doesn't. Heindel to the inside, late on the brakes, turns it on a sixpence, and through he goes. That's 9th place for the 117.
Nicely done by Dustin. And yeah, you're right. I think Adam knew he could make himself vulnerable if he fights too hard. He needs to really worry more about Larry in this situation, since that one is more likely to be the battle for position. Heindel up to P9 as Chris Marciniak and Yoshiki Tani are going back and forth. Late dive to the inside by Chris. Yoshiki leaves him plenty of room, and that makes it a drag race up the hill to Piratella. Inside still belongs to Marciniak, but he's going to have to watch out if Tani is able to really carry the speed, which he does, and holds on to 6. It's extremely rare I've seen drivers keep a position on the outside of Piratella.
That was just absolute guts and gumption there for Yoshiki Tani. Just decided, you know what, I'm going to put the pedal to the metal and see what happens. And, well, he made it work. So great move there. Meantime, change for P3. Bolton ahead of Sams.
Yeah, we had seen that a couple laps ago. Sam's trying to get it back here in the 127. Just not willing to relinquish it, at least for the time being. We're almost at the halfway point and too far back, despite the heavy braking, down into Tamburello for Sams to try and get that move happening. They're about 4 seconds off of BJ Fulton, it seems. So they're running out of speed a little bit in comparison. Did seem like maybe Michael felt the need to just kind of drift to the inside to dissuade Blake for a moment there.
Yeah, I have noticed that the left side of the front splitter on Blake's car looks to be a little bit bent inwards. So it might be probably from that incident we saw earlier on when Michael sent it through into turn 1 at Tamburello, and it was the left front that made the contact with the right rear of the 127 in third place. As we see, well, that's going to be Larry Haas and Adam Abrams battling away into Tamburello. This could get very, very spicy as that was very close as Larry Haas continues to hold on to that 10th spot, but still, it just goes to show that Adam Abrams, he's not one to hang about.
Yeah, it has really been an interesting one out there. I think Alan Watts just got a black flag for too many incident points, so he'll have to go and serve that one. His day going from a bit bad to worse, unfortunately, since he's already at the back. Blake Sams, though, plugged up behind Michael Bolton and coming onto the main straight. I don't see the good exit that he needed, and that means he's not going to have a chance, I don't believe, down into turn 1. Yeah, he's gaining, but just not enough by the time they get there. That was Watts that we saw off to the side actually serving his black flag.
Yeah, I think really coming out of the final of the double left-hander at Rivazzi, you need to be within a 0.2 of a second window to have any real opportunity. You've got to be right on the back bumper of the car in front, as once again through into Variante Villeneuve, up the slight incline here into Tosa, and then we climb again. It kind of reminds me of Laguna Seca a little bit. You know, when you go through turn 5, then go up towards the Rahal straight through 6, then before the corkscrew. Well, Imola has its own variant. It's just called Aqua Minerale, and it's a little bit different in terms of its corner composition. But still, Blake Sams is not letting Michael Bolton get away at all. And look how close he is, trying to go under. Trying to close in on the braking zone. Bolton and Sams take the same amount of runoff area coming out of the final part of Aqua Minerale, where they've really got to power up the hill and then hard on the brakes again. So it's brake, accelerate, and then it's going to be downhill. Can Blake Sams close that gap? Well, it's about 0.3 of a second. It's closing all the while because he's right in the wheel tracks of Michael Bolton, and they're kicking up the grass and the dirt as well. Sams, does he look to the inside here at Rivazza? No, the answer's no on that one, but he's got to try and do what he can. As we saw a little bit of unburnt fuel being lit ablaze at the twin tailpipes of Michael Bolton's 127 car, but look, 0.2 of a second. Replay, Larry Haas. What's happened here? Oh dear, that's not going to go well, and bang, the front end hits the barriers on the left-hand side, and that was coming out of Rivazza of all places.
Well, it conveniently allowed him to pop over to the pit lane and take one of those spare cars. So at least he had that going for him. These two nose to tail and just unable to separate. Blake Sam's going to be ruining, allowing him to outbrake him into that first corner so many laps ago, because ever since he snuck through, he's caught back up to him, but he can't seem to repeat the same feat that Michael was able to effect here.
Yeah, that's going to be crucial because we've now only got 18.5 minutes to go. And then as we were talking, you know, the pit lane strategy here, a very, very long pit lane. Blake has just accidentally activated his wiper, which has now ended up on the middle of the windscreen. Maybe just to clear a little bit of dust off it, you never know. But again, you can see how hard he is actually pushing, just waiting until the rev limiter now, just before the 50-meter board. Hard on the brakes, down to second gear, 50 miles an hour, bump over the curbs. And bumping over those curbs through Variante Alta, there is, you know, we've seen it a couple of times already, where drivers have just overstepped the limit of adhesion a bit too far, Joe, and they've got it all wrong.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the tightrope they're trying to walk here. You can certainly overstep it. Oh, as Michael is going to be the first to blink. 17 minutes left to go. Should still have some time left before they have to pit because most other drivers have not come in. But this will be a useful reference mark because Heindel has already pitted. So where does this put Bolton in reference to the number 117, who's already finished and has been, for the most part, running on his own? Just one period of having to overtake a car or two, and has been a little bit more lonesome compared to Bolton. Bolton just finished his stop, so he looks like he should come out well ahead of the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, and also spent just over half a second more putting fuel in the car. So 37.5 was the pit stop time for Michael Bolton. Here comes Dustin Heindel, the Cookie Monster. Chips ahoy. We were having that discussion last time out 2 weeks ago, weren't we, about cookies? And I think I brought up Oreos as well. So Chips Ahoy seems to be Dustin Heindel's preferred supplier.
Back to Dylan Scott, our leader. Wasn't this up to 4 seconds or so before? I thought it's now cut down to 1.4. Let me check the lap times. I wonder if there was a mistake that we've missed somewhere, or if BJ's just kind of turned up the wick.
Yeah, well, he went over 5.5 tenths of a second quicker in the opening sector alone. A 42, well, put it this way, 42.3 for Dylan, 41.7, a low 41.7 on the opening sector for BJ. So that's a big chunk of time, nearly 6 tenths taken out of him. But now it's about how they react to one another. And the thing is BJ going to go for a lap longer? Is Dylan going to extend that fuel window? It's very difficult to call that, because now with the fact that Michael Bolton has rejoined and he's currently 7th behind Chris Marciniak, if I'm looking at the, Michael Bolton at the moment is about 41 seconds off of Dylan Scott. So whenever Dylan decides to pit, that time is rapidly going to evaporate, as there we see Yoshi Kitani, Chris Marciniak go, and that releases Michael Bolton back up to 5th position. So the top 4 yet to pit.
But Bolton spent an entire lap behind them. I wonder what that's going to do for him. I'm checking the lap times. That last one was his out lap, so we won't get a accurate reading, unfortunately. This could work out well for Blake Sams, him electing to carry on. He is, I think, coming upon Larry Haas, so he might have lap traffic of his own. Depends on how generous Larry is feeling. Here we have caught up with BJ Fulton, though. He and Dylan Scott still riding right now about 1.8 seconds. So now Dylan started to pick it back up. It was down to 1.3, and maybe he's responding, refocusing, getting himself clear of that 82's threat.
Yeah, looking at the differential between Michael Bolton and Blake Sams at the moment, Joe, we're talking probably 34 seconds, which is not enough. And he got stuck behind a back marker, which I think was Larry Haas in the number 15. So that might put Blake in a little bit of a disadvantage. That will probably put him about 2 seconds behind, depending on how quick his pit stop. So if he can maybe short fuel to the point where he knows he's confident he's going to get across the line without the car sort of slowing down and starting to judder to a halt, it might work. But the more that, well, Bolton's just on a 43.5 in the opening sector, low 23.8 in sector 2, but it's not in comparison. Blake Sams was 4 tenths quicker in sector 1, 2.5 tenths quicker in sector 2. So if people were wondering how close is it going to be, I think Blake Sams might stay ahead of Michael Bolton come the end of his pit stop, but that depends on whether he can really maximise pit entry, pit exit, don't get a speeding penalty, because that will be a black flag straight away, and he'll have to serve that. So that's going to be crucial. And if anyone gets a pit stop wrong here at Imola, well, that's it, your goose is cooked.
Exactly, and for that last lap, I can tell you that Sams was about 2 tenths quicker than Bolton. So it is looking good for him, as Marciniak is still racing with Yoshiki right after they come out of their pit stops, and coming into the first corner, they're going to go wheel to wheel down through Tamburello. A little bit of door banging between them, and Tani will come out ahead in 8th position. Marciniak has been flummoxed by the Japanese driver.
It seems like Blake Sams has had a moment. He's gone wide and he's just gone into the pit lane. So now is the big question.
Oh.
Michael Bolton, can he get through on him? That time is going to rapidly jump down. So until Blake... Oh, Blake's got a black flag.
Yeah.
Blake's got a black flag.
And I think that may have been for speeding. It's hard to tell. I was trying to figure out. I don't think it was for an unsafe entry. This is gutting. He's definitely not going to jump Bolton in this case, who should easily go on by. And it looks like Dylan Scott, who's already taken his pit stop, is now in and out. So
I was for speeding in the pit lane.
Thank you to our director. Yeah.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah, but I did say you've got to get these pit stops right. And the first thing I said was speeding. And straight away, Blake has just... bit of kick up there from Adam Abrams in 10th place in the number 13. So this has... Oh, dear, that's a... Oh, he's still serving his black flag penalty. That pit stop is north of 65 seconds. So we're going to have a replay showing here of Adam Abrams. Now, this is on the run to Variante Alta.
Ooh.
And there's... Oh, Mark Morales.
I almost think
definitely.
Morales looked like he outbraked himself, was trying to keep from running into the back of Abrams, and then Abrams maybe was watching his mirrors a little too much and lost control in the process. That was a bit of a strange one.
It was like two drivers going off track at the same time, one spinning and one going straight on and doing some grass cutting with the front splitter.
Certainly a strange one. Back to Marciniak. And Sams comes out behind him. Well, this is going to make this a fun fight because it was already pretty spicy between Tani and Marciniak. And now Sams is going to be extremely worked up, no doubt, because he knows he's given away what could have been a podium up at the front. Now he's just trying to get maybe back to a top 5 potentially, as Leclerc has taken his stop and BJ Fulton just finished his as well. And Fulton, is Fulton emerging ahead? Yes, Fulton has jumped Scott in the pit stops.
And he's short. 1.9 seconds was the difference, Joe, on the pit stop. 9.7 for refueling for BJ Fulton. Dylan Scott, 11.6. And that equated to a big chunk of time. But look, the differential, the delta between BJ Fulton and Dylan Scott. Blake Sams gets a bit robust here on Chris Marciniak. And Marciniak and Sams, they both go into the gravel at Rivazza.
Oh, no. I'm sure they were... I mean, they made contact what looked like a couple times. Hold on, Blake.
That's another wobble.
Yeah, he'll keep it together. I'm sure them making contact kind of messed up both of their braking, so it's downhill. Gravity's already pulling you that little bit more, and off they went. And that certainly helped out Tani, because he's now 5 seconds up the road from the pair of them.
Yeah, but this is I mean, Chris Marciniak, our last GT4 Series champion for Season 2 in 2025, to be fighting door to door with Blake Sams is an absolute treat to watch. And I don't think Chris is done yet, but look who's closing in behind. Mark Rondo in the number 11. And if this becomes a three-way fight, there's been a drama there. Ooh. And that was now, who was that?
Garamani.
That was going to be Garamani that's dropped the ball, and he's ended up 12th as Dylan Scott on the flashers, I think, saying to the people in front, get out of my way, coming through, and BJ Fulton is only 9 tenths ahead. We've got a race on our hands for the next 8.5 minutes, Joe, because they've got Mark Morales right in front of them in the number 99.
Looks like we got another replay here. This is Dylan Scott. This is exactly what you don't want to see. My goodness, that was close. And he did a good job keeping cool in the process, because he's actually gained 2 more tenths since we last looked. He is now down to 7 tenths of a second behind BJ Fulton. I don't know if Dylan was expecting to get jumped in the pit stops, but I feel like this caught me completely by surprise. I knew BJ was catching. I didn't think that, 1 or 2 laps difference, he'd be able to completely leapfrog him.
Yeah, I think probably sometimes, to play the longer game, you'll fuel the car for a couple of seconds extra, and that just gives you that window of opportunity. And sometimes with the risk of short fueling the car, you know, if BJ comes across the line and he's still got fumes in the car, it will still go across the line. But you can see how Dylan is absolutely cornering on rails at the moment as they come through Variante Alta. And this, I mean, like, you know, talking of you know, things happening out on track, the amount of gravel that has been flung out of the kitty litter coming out of Rivazza. We saw Dylan Scott's front hood getting absolutely pebble dashed as he was chasing down BJ Fulton as they go out of Rivazza again, and more gravel kicked up by the right rear tyre of the 82, but with 0.5 of a second separating our top two as Adam Abrams jumps into pit lane with a black flag himself. This is where Dylan Scott has the window of opportunity and the luxury of being the hunter, whereas BJ Fulton is now the hunted, the boots on the other foot, so to speak.
Indeed. Will it be a different dynamic because of that? And Scott got awful close coming into Tamburello, I will admit. Just not quite close enough. It's only got a couple more laps to try and get by. Oh, as that was a mistake there. Slow off the corner. Scott knows it. He immediately sends it into Tosa. No response from Fulton. He tries to cut back underneath, but the car was there. The 08 has taken the lead.
Yeah, it was just that slight moment of misdirection from BJ Fulton and opened the door for Dylan Scott. Now through out of Piratella. Down the hill they go into the compression zone here at Acqua Minerale. And it's just about getting your exit right coming out of here. Don't hit the sausage curbs. BJ Fulton was very close to doing so, but you see the run that Dylan Scott got out of that corner, and then makes it up to over 0.4 of a second, but it closes up in the braking zone for Variante Alta. But you can see that Dylan Scott is able to put the power down. He is not taking chances here, Joe. He's taking less curb through some of the chicanes, and that is the difference between having a clean lap or having a lap that is very, very scruffy. But look at BJ closing in at the first part of Rivazza through the final corner. And then, oh, wobble from BJ from the back end. He just clipped the gravel in the AstroTurf, and that meant that Dylan was able to get all the traction down on the rear tyres and pull away. But BJ is closing. Look at the speed, 160 miles an hour. Probably be about 165 plus, 167. 168 indicated on the speedo. Nearly has to check up and keep behind Dylan Scott as we head down into Variante Villeneuve. This is getting so close to wire, and there is another back marker in front. That's probably going to be maybe John Momayer in the number 6. BJ has to be earlier on the brakes again through into the second part of Villeneuve. And look, even with going through the gravel, Dylan Scott's car is absolutely planted.
He's dealing with this impressively well. BJ was just inches away from that car in front. And you're right, that lap traffic of Larry Haas just in front of them could play a factor. 4 minutes left to go here. 2 laps maybe, I guess, until we're done. It's going to be close as they go through Acqua Minerale. Any little mistake is going to be pounced upon by either driver. They have got to be absolutely picture perfect to the end.
Yeah, and they've got to negotiate the back marker traffic as soon as it comes up in front of them. And, well, there we go. Out of the way.
Nicely done.
Neat and tidy there. Well played. Well played. And that just goes to show, and that was Larry Haas actually exiting stage left, just staying out of the way of the warring duo at the front end of the field. Our Porsche Gladiators in the form of Dylan Scott and BJ Fulton out of Rivazza again. You can see every single time Dylan is able to nail the apex, and that allows for a good carry of momentum. You don't want to go too far wide, as we've seen with BJ quite a few times through that second part of Rivazza. It's the first part going downhill and making your mark on the braking at the right point, because otherwise it doesn't give you enough of a turn in and enough of a carry. Whereas if you, that first part of it, if it is a little bit over the plate, all over the shop, you know, like the car's getting a little bit loose on the back end when you're stamping on the brakes whilst trying to keep the steering wheel straight before the apex of the first part of Rivazza, that then causes a chain reaction of how the second part can just be completely scruffy.
This is all on their own as well. I don't think we've mentioned that Bolton's about 9.5 seconds behind currently. So he's not a threat in this. They are free to fight to the end. Blake Sams is going to get maybe one more of those positions back. Yoshiki Tani is on the outside, and Sams will have, the wrong side, actually. The outside coming into Tamburello, but he's deeper on the brakes anyways, and makes short work of the 14. That's back up to 6 for the number 2 car.
Well, I think in some respects with regards to the excitement we've had so far, but look at this, 2 minutes to go. Next time around will be the white flag lap as we're heading down the hill into Rivazza here on lap number 23. So we'll be white flag next time by because it's a long run coming out of Rivazza. The gap is about 0.3 of a second. So BJ Fulton, who's been on the podium every single one of the 3 rounds so far, yet to hit the top step as Joe indicated earlier on in the show. But Dylan Scott, he needs to gain points. He needs to move up that table as the white flag will be in the air this time. And it's going to be 3 miles to go.
Is Fulton starting to feel a little bit Chick Hicks this season? Is he tired of coming in second place? Wanting to try and stand on that top step here. Can he beat Dylan Scott to it, or is Scott going to deny him for the 4th time this season to get a potential win? Down through the Villeneuve chicane for the final time. And it's nice and smooth for both of them. Now out of Tosa, both trying to nail that exit. And you could see Dylan really using up every inch of that exit.
Oh, meantime, in the replay, Yoshiki Tani got it all wrong. And I think that was coming out of Piratella heading down into Acqua Minerale. So the car ended up spinning and the right front clattered into the barriers there, Joe.
That's a bit of a shame. It was such a fun race up to that point, and that was a mistake from BJ Fulton. He has to ease up as he recollects the car, and Dylan Scott starts to run away scot-free. So, with just a couple more corners to go, it looked like at one point maybe he wasn't going to win this one. Emerged from the pit stops in second place, but he fought his way back forward. And that is all following an impressive start to this race where he took it right at the first corner going around the outside. Dylan Scott, I think he's earned this one as he gets ready to take his first win of the season. And it's going to be here at Imola for Dylan Scott.
Well, Mr. Consistency continues his run. Not a win yet, but how long are we going to have to wait for BJ Fulton to take a win? That's the big question, because both of those drivers really earned it. And good to see Michael Bolton get on the podium this time here at Imola. And it all came down to one problem for Blake Sams speeding in pit road. The Cookie Monster, Dustin Heindel, started in P6. He's going to round out the top 4. And also, quite a quiet race for Rob Leclerc in the number 12. He's about 11.6 seconds back, but he's going to round out the top 5. Good showing by him this week.
I do appreciate the Camel GT livery that he's brought to the car.
I was just about to say that as well.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that before. And that tells you how quiet he's been. I don't think we've really shown him all that much. And there's Sam's no doubt frustrated and disappointed. That's the first race he's attended that he hasn't won this season, as Rondeau will get himself a 7th spot, narrowly avoiding disaster at one point, only to be collected later. Marciniak, only 8th place for him. Tani, after a late race incident, down to 9th, and Mollmeyer. Last one on the lead lap, it looks like, with only 10 cars completing every lap of this race. But that gives us a chance to now go through our finishing order. And as we mentioned just a bit ago, it was Dylan Scott who was our winner. BJ Fulton was P2 as Michael Bolton finished 3rd, and Dustin Heindel was 4th, Robert Leclerc P5, and Blake Sams an unfortunate 6th. Marc Rondeau was 7th, Marciniak 8th, and Yoshiki Tani P9. John Mollmeyer rounding out the top 10 from there. Get to cars that were lapped. Jim Garamani amongst those in 11th. Adam Abrams, a late penalty, sent him down the order to 12th. Larry Haas was 13th, and Mark Morales P14, and a DNF for Alan Watts, unfortunately. I do believe we've got Dylan Scott ready to talk to us, and definitely curious how he felt about this one, because Dylan, you started things off with an aggressive but excellent move around the outside to take the lead. Was that kind of your focus on that start, knowing how tough it is to pass here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought through it in my mind, what's going to happen if I get behind BJ. He's probably just going to, continue to pull away. So I figured I had to go for a move on the outside, tried to keep it clean. I kept an eye on BJ where he was, where he was about to break, and tried to just go a little bit deeper. And yeah, I knew it would be a better option for me to take the lead into turn one. And yeah, it came off as I planned.
Now, speaking of plans, we were a bit surprised to see you get jumped in the pit stops. Were you kind of expecting that? Because I know he was closing, but I didn't think he was going to leapfrog you.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I realized I just got back from Australia on Saturday, so I'm running on jet lag, nerves, and then I realized I hadn't practiced the pit entry. I had no idea where the pit line was, so I kind of didn't want to get a speeding infraction through the pits. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's BJ. You can never count BJ out. He is the master of. I even said to him over comms, I said, "Are you going to sit back there and save fuel?" And he shyly said, No, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm sure he was. He had another lap in him at full speed. You can't trust that guy. I'm kidding, of course. He's the nicest person. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. Well, sorry, it wasn't a surprise, I suppose. But, I was disappointed to find out I came out behind him and had to race him. And then, I didn't want to make an aggressive move. I just didn't know which way he was going when he went off track. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm here now. I can't switch back to the other side. I'm going to hit the back of him. So it worked out in my favor, and we'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah, it worked out, managing to get you a pass. We're just watching it here on the replay on screen now. So you finally get that first win. What does this do for your season? Is this kind of the shot in the arm you were looking for?
I had little things occur. I kind of wasn't really worrying about it. Having got the championship last year, I kind of checked that box. So I really came back tonight thinking, hey, I'm just back from vacation. Let's just play it cool. Whatever happens, happens, and don't worry about it. And I think it's probably the reason I managed to sort of just, keep it on the island. I had a couple moments, but yeah, I tried to play it chill, didn't want to do anything stupid on night one back. So maybe that worked in my favor.
Yeah, I'd say vacation did you well. Congratulations on the win. Hopefully we'll chat with you more this season.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Shout out to my kids, Nico, Luca, Aurora. I love you guys.
Dylan Scott taking the win, followed by BJ Fulton. I believe Alex has caught up with P2.
Well, BJ, the consistent run of second and third place finishes continue here in round 4. It was really, really close. You were trying to put Dylan under significant pressure. It worked that you undercut him in that you got the overcut done in the pit lane by about a couple of seconds, but then he really put you under pressure, made the move through at turn 7, but just on the last few corners remaining, Variante Alta was not your friend.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed in this race. I feel like I was a little soft to let him by on the first corner, and then it's a really awkward situation when he got by me again in turn 7. Both times I feel like I could have defended better there. So he had a little bit of pace on me, but I felt like I could have held him off at the end there, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's at a track like this, which is incredibly, incredibly technical, sometimes one wrong misstep can, cause you to lose your rhythm and trying to keep the car on the tarmac rather than walloping the curves. But we did see that at times you were being very, very aggressive with the car, which really, really helped you close that gap, and especially under braking as well. But, still, yeah, disappointment I completely understand, but there's still a long ways to go in this series.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll come back strong, try to get some more poles, and hopefully I'll be able to cash that check next time.
Well, congratulations on the second place finish. I know it's not where you wanted to be, but hopefully when we go to Sebring in a couple of weeks' time, I'm sure we're going to see you on full fighting form, firing on all cylinders. Before you go, BJ, anyone you want to give a shout out to today?
Yeah, I just want to thank POC and Porsche North America for helping put this on. And, I want to thank you guys for your great broadcast.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, BJ. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for round 5.
Thanks.
And standing by with Joe Peak, I think we've got our final person on the rostrum. Michael Bolton makes a return.
Indeed. And Michael, you had to get your elbows out. Let's talk about that pass early in the race on Blake Sams going into the Tamburello chicane. Just a light touch between the two of you, but that's all it took, and you had it.
What's up, Joe? I'm back. Feels good. Yeah, got to give it up to Dylan and BJ. Those guys just have incredible pace, and Blake has a lot of pace too. So any way I could get around him, I was gonna take it. Wasn't gonna leave anything on the table, but looked like just from being in BJ's draft and my draft for so long, I think his tires started to give.
Now, a little bit later, you took a decision to take an earlier stop than Blake, and we were kind of watching that. Notice you had to pass a few cars. Was there any regret with the early stop? I know it wound up being a bit of a moot point because of Blake's penalty and his pit stop, but I'm sure there were some nervous moments out there.
Yeah, I feel like, he was getting really good exits out of the penultimate corner, and I just wanted to pass him in pit lane and not on track and let him, get around me. And then as I came up on traffic after I already pitted, the 2-lap cars just dove into the pit. So it ended up working out really well. But yeah, I'm just happy to be back on the podium and getting to race with these guys. These guys are hard to race against. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, especially considering Blake won those first 2 races, is this kind of a feather in your cap, being able to beat him out on track?
I think so. I was trying to get this car figured out for a while, and I'm starting to figure it out. So I hope I can bring more to the next race and to Blake and all these guys in the POC. But yeah, no, I think I'm definitely figuring out this car more and more every time I get in it. Just need some more seat time.
Well, excellent job out there. Another podium for the season. Hopefully we'll see some more.
Thank you. Just a quick shout out to my lovely wife, Gabby, best friend, Dre Kemper's watching, my buddy TK, parents back home. Thank you guys so much to the POC and to GSRC. Thank you guys.
Michael Bolton finishing P3 today. We also want to give a few thanks, of course, with our sponsors, Porsche being one of them. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. And thanks to our team, Alex, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. You heard it mentioned a little bit earlier. The next time out for this series will be at Sebring, fitting off to March here in the States with sports cars. So you're going to see a lot of Sebring probably here in the sim. And that'll, of course, be Monday, March 9th, rather, when that takes place. Up next on the channel, we will be heading off to Watkins Glen with the Skip Barber Race Series. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts we have listed. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.